So what I'm going to do today is show you exactly how you can make a whole plant-based lasagna without any refined ingredients. So we're going to go pasta free and we're going to go flour free. So this is great for those people that are vegetarian, vegan, gluten free, like the whole works. If you want to learn a little bit more, carry on watching. So here we've got some of the ingredients that we're going to use to make our lasagna. So white sauce without any butter or milk. So what we're going to use for alternatives, we've got coconut oil instead of butter. I use an oat milk. Instead of normal flour, I use a gram flour, which is actually made from chickpeas. Again, this is just so you can make it gluten-free. And this is what really kind of gives it almost a cheesy flavor. So if you're going to do like a cheese sauce, the nutritional yeast gives it that flavor. It also adds in some vitamin B12 for those that potentially are not getting a high level of vitamin B12 in their diet. What we're also going to do, we're going to just make a tomato sauce that goes on in between. So it's just going to be a completely basic tomato sauce. We're just going to use some pepper, onion, garlic, just some mixed herbs. So we're going to use some basil and chili, and then just like a chopped tomatoes as well. Instead of pasta, what we're actually going to do is we're going to take an aubergine, we're going to slice it very fine. We're also going to take some courgettes, and again, we're going to slice them nice and fine. And what we're going to basically do, we're going to leave these in the oven, we're going to roast those, and instead of using pasta, that's what we're going to use for our sheets. In the back, what we've basically got is we've got some baby spinach, and we've got some mushrooms. We're actually going to fry these off later on together, and we're actually going to put those on top of the tomato sauce. And so we're essentially going to go a layer of white sauce, tomato sauce, pasta, and then our mushrooms and our spinach. And then we're going to layer it all the way up until the top. Once we've got to the top, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to slice up these tomatoes, we're going to throw them on the top, and then we're going to bake it in the oven for just over an hour. So the first thing that we're actually going to do is we're just going to chop up our aubergine and our courgettes. We're going to just slice them into thin slices. Essentially, I'm just going to use one whole aubergine, and I'm going to use two medium-sized, this one's actually quite small, but two medium-sized courgettes. We're going to slice them into discs. You can actually go longwise as well. It doesn't matter so long as they're sliced roughly half a centimeter thick and left in the oven for about 25 minutes. Amazing. So now that you've actually got those into the oven, essentially what we're now going to work on is making that tomato sauce. Again, super simple. All we're going to do, chop up the peppers, the onions, the garlic, the courgette. We're going to cut them up nice and fine. We're going to saute off those vegetables just so they're nice and soft. All we're then going to do is throw in our mixed herbs and our tomatoes, and we're just going to start to simmer it down a little bit. Again, it should be cooked in about 15 to 20 minutes. So as we can see now, the vegetables are chopped. I've actually kept the scraps at the other end. So other than the red onion shell, so actually like the crispy bits at the outside, I actually keep these and I stick them in the freezer because what I later on do with them, I stick them all in a boiling pot and I'll use them to make my own vegetable stock. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer these chopped vegetables. We're going to put them in one of the saucepans that you can see at the end. We're just going to saute them off and then throw in our garlic and our chili and our basil, and then we're going to make it into a sauce. Super easy. So as you might be able to hear right now, our saucepan is making tons of noise. We've got those vegetables that are starting to stir fry. We just want them basically soft so that the flavors are starting to come out. The onion starts to caramelize, the garlic flavor starts to infuse in. But essentially where a lot of your flavor is going to come from is actually boiling them all down together with the tomato sauce as well. So we're just going to let these saute for about 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to add in our tomatoes and our mixed herbs. One other thing that I really like to add into mine is I've kind of got like a secret ingredient to get the onions to taste super extra good. I actually really like balsamic vinegar, really good. And one last thing that I probably didn't show you in the lead up was one of my other favorite ingredients to throw in. Ooh. Let me just find the jar. Is sun-dried tomatoes. Absolutely brilliant. This is these will change the flavour of any tomato sauces. They just give it so much more richer flavour. If you're into just making like a tomato base, whether that I use this same tomato base for cooking bakes. You can use it for making like a bolognese. Just add in mince or lentils. You can use it for the tomato sauce that you're going to put if you blend it down and put it on the top of your pizza. So this is a super diverse, just simple tomato sauce that you can use for pretty much anything. So this is probably one of the more complicated things that I've taught you so far as cooking is concerned. It is going to require quite a lot of different utensils to actually cook with. You're going to have at least 2 pans on the top. You're going to have one in the oven, and then you're going to have a casserole dish. You're going to have to cook this all in at the end. So just be aware this is one that you want to make if you've got a little bit of extra time. So what we're going to do now, we've got basically the flavours from the basil and all the other stuff that's basically going in our saucepan. All we're going to do now, we're just going to throw in our tins of tomatoes and just add that extra flavour in and actually give the sauce some base. So now that we've got those added in, we're just going to leave those to sit and simmer on the top whilst all the other stuff is cooking, and we're waiting for those aubergines and courgettes that are already in the oven. So the next bit that we're going to do is probably the hardest bit of making lasagna, whether that's vegetarian, vegan, not vegan, full meat, no meat, is the white sauce. And the reason the white sauce is probably the most difficult bit is it's the bit that's most likely going to go lumpy or stodgy if you do it wrong. Now personally, I actually don't find that measurements work particularly well with a white sauce. The way that I've always made it is I add coconut oil to the pan, I'll add the flour in, I'll make it almost to the point where it goes into like a dough, and what I'll do is I'll continuously add the milk to it little bit by little bit by little bit until it goes into a smooth sauce, and that's when I then add in the nutritional yeast. But I won't add in the flour and the butter, or in my case oil, all in together and then mix it, because what you're essentially going to get is you're going to get this really clumpy mess, and you're essentially just going to throw the white sauce out and it tastes pretty yuck. And then when you actually do cut into your lasagna, you're going to get clumps of flour where the lumpy bits are. So be patient with this, it's really, really important. Well, now oil completely dissolved. So once you've got your oil looking a little bit like this, that's when we can start to add in our flour. Why I said to you it's going to make into that kind of clumpy dough, almost looks like breadcrumbs. From here, just add in your milk. You can add it in slowly. And now I've got a kitchen assistant. Yeah, see, it smells good apparently. Cool. Yeah, it's so easy. How high you keep, also careful with how much you add anyone time. So it is one big mess of lumpies. So just working it, I'm doing it, I'm showing you the side. You want to keep into it, you've got to see some, take some extra, do, there's some until you get relatively smooth. I personally find that being a little bit slyer and more attentive with this will make for a better white sauce. See you guys on the other end of this. So we're just coming to the end of the white sauce. So again, we've got like a creamy sauce, relatively thick, and it should, fingers crossed, stay with no lumps in it. So we're just gonna add, just to give it some flavor, we're just gonna add the nutritional yeast. Depending on how cheesy you like it, depends on how much you throw in. Personally, I like it cheesy. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to fry off the mushrooms until they're more or less cooked, which is basically where they're at now. And what we're going to do is going to throw in our spinach as well. I'm just going to wilt the spinach, and then we're just going to set all the pans to one side. So just cook all that spinach down until it's basically wilted down. Excellent, so here we've got what it should look like once it's all fried down. So here we've got at the end, we've got our roasted courgettes and aubergines, we've got our white sauce, we've got the mushrooms and spinach. We have the tomato sauce that's just finishing boiling off, just trying to get some of the liquid off the end. And then we literally have our tomatoes on the end, and all of this is essentially going to go layer by layer by layer into our casserole dish and back into the oven for about 40 minutes. Okay, so we're just coming up to the last layers, but I'm just going to show you just what we've basically been doing up until this point. So essentially what we've got on the bottom is the tomato sauce, which is what we're just going to go and run back through again now. So we've got the tomato sauce that's laid out. This is our last layer. And what we've basically got in between is we've got the vegetables layered instead of pasta sheets. So we're going to put these out, cover as much of that tomato as possible. Easy, easy, easy. Okay, that's that one done. And then what we're going to do, from that out of the way, we're going to throw the mushrooms and the spinach over the top of that. Just press it down. Last bit we can do, just going to put our white sauce spread over the top. Again, just try and spread it over a little bit. You want to almost save a little bit of extra white sauce for the top bit, just to make sure it's covered. And then once we're done with that bit, and like I say, you can spread it, try and spread it over as much of the top as possible. And don't worry about it making it look like super, super pretty, because once you start cooking it, all the flavors and layers start cooking into each other anyway. So if it doesn't look really pretty when you've done it, the top layer is going to be strictly just tomato anyway. So what we're going to do is just going to layer our tomatoes over the top. nice now, a little bit prettier. So we've got tons of whole foods, we've got plenty of carbs, proteins, all your macros, your microvitamins in here. And then you're just going to throw this in the oven. I'm going to leave it in the oven for around 40 minutes. So we just got back from our 40-minute walk and boom, hey presto. So mine versus oven. So I really hope you enjoyed learning how to make this lasagna. If you want to learn a little bit more, then we just say that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got our playlist, Cooking with the Cairo. Hope to see you there again.